This could be a very powerful time for manifestations. If you're somebody who is a manifester, who has the ability to really ask for something and you receive it, this is the time to do it right now. Like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you need? Call it in.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit, a podcast exploring the intersection of Western astrology and Jungian psychology. Astrology is a language that communicates how the planets and stars influence life on Earth, while psychology helps us navigate both conscious and unconscious experiences. Together, these tools offer the potential for self-understanding, growth, and transformation. Join astrologer Scott Tajarian and me, psychotherapist Gabriella Durso, as we dive into the cosmic forecast each week.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of May 13th to the 19th. Hi, Gabriella.
Hey, Scott.
This week we are highlighting Mercury's transit out of its retrograde shadow and into Taurus. But we begin where we left off last week, talking about a couple transits that we discussed at the end of last week's episode that we're going to re-highlight again this week, just to kind of set the tone for what the energy is going to be. This is the sun, the giver of light, life, and vitality, conjunct with Uranus, the planet of revolution, rebellion, innovation, independence, and the unexpected. Together in the fixed earth sign symbolized by the bull, Taurus. This transit is occurring from last Friday, May 10th, until this Wednesday, May 15th, with an exact conjunction happening on Monday, May 13th. At the same time that is happening, there is Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships, also transiting through the fixed earth sign of Taurus, which Venus rules, forming a sextile, a supportive aspect to Saturn, the god of wealth and time, the planet of restriction, responsibility, hard work, achievement, and authority, in the mutable water sign symbolized by the fish, Pisces. This is occurring from this past Sunday, May 12th, until this Tuesday, May 14th, with the exact sextile happening on Monday, May 13th.
Can you remind us the highlights of what those mean from last week?
Absolutely, yes. So when you think of the sun, it's where the sun is bringing energy. Where is it bringing that energy? To Taurus. Taurus is the sign that represents your self-worth, your values. It represents your relationship to the material, your relationship to money, how you make your money, where you spend your money. Do you value how you make your money? Do you value what you spend your money on? Do you feel valued by those that you're connected to? And through those connections, do you feel that sense of independence? That's where Uranus comes in. Uranus's transit through Taurus is really helping us claim our financial independence. What makes you unique? If you can understand what makes you unique, then you have value which cannot be duplicated by anyone else. So that's the energy of the sun and Uranus conjunct in Taurus. And then Venus in Taurus is awakening our senses, our relationship to the five physical senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, what looks good, what tastes good, what smells good, what feels good, what sounds good, what do we like? And then the connection to Saturn in Pisces is bringing that sense of reality to the unconscious, and maybe bringing your dreams into reality through the five physical senses. So the early part of this week is an awakening to your self-worth, your values, your likes and dislikes.
So it's essentially a process of getting to know yourself on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Which is always important as we move through life.
Totally.
Whether those are values that are changing, likes or dislikes that are evolving, or perhaps just getting you in touch with those parts of yourself that maybe you were unaware of.
That's right. That's Saturn in Pisces. It's really bringing your unconscious into the reality. Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's interesting how easy it is to be unaware of what your gifts are. How easy it is to assume that everyone is good at the things that you're good at.
Totally.
So I'm hearing some of that in what you're saying too. Not only how that shows up in relationships, but how might that also be a part of sort of this larger invitation with Pluto and Aquarius to show up with clarity about what it is you have to offer. Yes. What is unique about you?
This makes me think of several of the clients that I work with via the Cosmic Pathway, my weekly clients that I work with currently, that I've worked with in the past. They aspire to be astrologers, or to, at the very least, use their understanding of the language of astrology to benefit their profession. But for those that want to be an astrologer that is giving readings to other people, I see doubts in them sometimes. And so I try to encourage them. Listen, it's like one of my clients said that someone who follows her on Instagram was like, wow, I can't believe your astrologer Scott was promoting you being an astrologer on his Instagram page. And it's like, yeah, of course, why wouldn't I? You know, you're not in competition with me. I'm not in competition with you. The way that you share your knowledge as an astrologer is different than the way that I share my knowledge as an astrologer. So I don't look at any other astrologer as competition, because there's 8 billion people in the world. And I certainly don't have the time and energy to talk to all of them. And not all of them are going to want to talk to me to begin with. You know, it's like some people, like when I have people come and do readings with me or they want to work with me, I see the connection between their chart and my chart, or the reflections between their chart and my chart. I'm like, why is this person choosing me to give a reading? And I look at their chart and I'm like, okay, I can see why. I see these different connections. For someone who doesn't want to do a reading with me, but maybe wants to do a reading with someone that I'm working with, or someone that I've worked with who wants to be a professional astrologer, they're going to fit maybe more for them. So this is where we get into the uniqueness, because I think of astrology as like music. I say it all the time, but you know, who's a better guitar player, Jimi Hendrix or Jerry Garcia? I mean, they're both great guitarists. Is one better than the other? That's just a matter of personal opinion. One person could say Jerry Garcia is the greatest guitarist that's ever lived. Another person could say, no, Jimi Hendrix is the greatest guitarist that's ever lived. And both would be right, because that's what it means to them. This isn't sports, you know, where it's like there's a winner. We play a game and whoever has the most points wins. That's not what astrology is. Astrology is like an art form.
Well, I think what you're describing too is not just the individual nature of each astrologer, but the alchemy that occurs between the two people.
Exactly.
Between therapist and client as well.
Exactly. Astrologer
and client. There's an alchemy between the charts,
yes,
which is what allows each person to understand that connection in whatever way they're meant to.
That's it.
I remember I had a similar experience with my Reiki teacher, and she was so loving and supportive. And I remember thinking along the lines of this comment you received, like, why isn't she worried about me taking her clients? Or like what? I was a little bit confused by the kindness, which, you know, is just interesting to notice in and of itself. And I remember her saying really clearly to me, the people who are drawn to work with you will find you.
Exactly.
And it really, I mean, I've never forgotten the simplicity of that comment. That was sort of the first time I'd ever thought about things like that. Mm-hmm. This is almost 10 years ago now. And she was really such a beautiful teacher for me in so many ways. But I love that you're bringing this in because I think it's the same way in my field of study, that it doesn't matter how many therapists you have out there. We're all necessary. We're all needed.
Exactly.
Because there are different people who feel drawn and connected to us.
Yeah.
So it's, in that way, it virtually eliminates like the concept of competition.
Right.
Like a competition is when you think about how we're all bringing our unique thing into the world in a way that only we can do it.
Yes, that's right.
It's pretty profound.
It is.
When you think about the impacts of sort of when you accept that and sort of connect with that way of understanding what you can let go of as a result. Yes. It feels like a relief to me.
Totally. And that's what hopefully that is what we're receiving from these frequencies, is a relief in terms of just being yourself. What do you like? You like this kind of music? I don't. That's fine. Doesn't mean your music is bad. To me, it might feel bad. Just like some of the food that you might eat, I might not like. That doesn't mean the food is bad in totality. I don't like it, but you can. I don't like this music, but you can. Everybody's going to have their own experience of the 5 physical senses. You like wearing these clothes. I like wearing those clothes. Just be yourself. And so the first transit that we haven't discussed yet, because this is recapping last week, but Mercury, the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, and coordination, exits its retrograde shadow on Monday, May 13th. And so Mercury has been in its retrograde shadow since March 18th. It's been almost 2 months in the shadow. Mercury retrograde began on April 1st at 27 degrees in Aries. Today, Wednesday, May 13th, Mercury is at 27 degrees in Aries. So it's where it was 6 weeks ago. So think about, where were you on April 1st? What was going on with you during the beginning of Mercury retrograde? That is what we are experiencing again today. So, what do you feel like you've accomplished since then? And now's a time to really sort of maybe open your horizons, broaden your horizons a little bit, bring in new projects, things that you were kind of holding off during the retrograde because you were trying to just complete whatever it is you were working on. Now's the time to fire up the new whatever that is for you.
And also to integrate whatever it is you learned, whatever sort of cycle you were completing, as you mentioned, or whatever that exploration was about for you, to kind of synthesize it, integrate it, and decide how to move forward with it.
That's right. Excellent. Very good. Well, right after this happens, a couple days after Mercury moves out of its retrograde shadow, so that's Monday, May 13th, is Wednesday, May 15th, is when Mercury transits into Taurus. So now we have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus all in Taurus. 5 planets in Taurus. It might start to feel like a bit of a slog where things are not moving. It's like Mercury moves out of its retrograde shadow and we're going to start kicking the dust up and everything, but we're cruising through the dirt. And so the dust is maybe getting kicked up, but we're like in the sand where you're like running on the beach. And we're getting stronger because we're running on the beach, but we're not running as fast as we could if we were running on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a stark contrast from we're coming out of this Aries energy, but before that, so much Pisces. Really, I'm still feeling some of the effects of that. And so it's really going to be like we've been learning how to live in the water, and now we have to learn how to live on the land or something.
Yes.
Like the climate, the energetic climate is going to be completely different.
Absolutely.
So on one hand, it could feel kind of like slogging or like things have slowed down in a way that's uncomfortable. But on the other hand, it could feel incredibly grounding in a way that could bring some relief.
Exactly. Like if you have key astrological points or planets in Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, Cancer, Pisces, maybe even Scorpio. But Scorpio, it might be still super intense because it's the opposition. But the 2 water signs, Cancer and Pisces, and then all 3 earth signs, like this might feel like your time where you're able to kind of slow down at your pace, ground into what it is you like, what you enjoy, good food, long naps, just resting. If you were born with key astrological points in Leo or Aquarius, this is going to be, maybe the hell time of the year for you, because the fixed air of Aquarius doesn't mix with the fixed earth of Taurus, and the fixed fire of Leo is extinguished by all this Taurus energy. So you're wanting to feel that excitement or that logic, the excitement and the joy of Leo, or the logic of Aquarius, and it's all getting bogged down by this earth energy. So it all depends on where the planets are in your chart and where these 5 planets are aligning with the planets in your chart, and that will give you the clarity that you need to know how to navigate this time with 5 planets in the fixed earth sign of Taurus. And if you would like to know more about how these transits are affecting you, you can contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. Mercury is transiting through Taurus from May 15th to June 3rd. So it's a little over 2 weeks because Mercury's picking up its pace again. It's moving quick. The last time Mercury was in Taurus was April 3rd to June 11th. That was a much longer period because the last time Mercury was in Taurus, it was Mercury retrograde. So it was like over 2 months in Taurus last year. April 3rd to June 11th, 2023. The time before that was April 10th to the 29th, April 10th to April 29th, 2022. So think back to those dates for clues on what could be in store for you this time around as Mercury transits through the sign of the Bull. But it's really bringing your mental process towards what's important to me. What do I value?
And sometimes I just think this is important to notice that sometimes you get information about what you like or what you value by coming into contact with what you don't. Sometimes it's an sort of an experience of the opposites. Like you might have a sense of not valuing anything that's sort of in your experience in a way that could feel really kind of difficult.
Yes. Exactly.
I've definitely had periods of my life that were like that, where I was learning about what I valued, but it was directly through contact with what I didn't value.
Yes.
So that contrast can also be information.
Yes.
Too.
Yes, and that could be what you're experiencing right now is what you don't like, and that will narrow things down to what you do like by checking all the things off that you don't like. Then there's only so much left on the list.
Right. It's kind of a difficult way to maybe arrive to that information, but it can be really valuable.
Yes. But this offers an opportunity to slow down like the Bull. Take your time, smell the roses, chew your food, really just chill like the bull.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And be in physical reality.
Mm-hmm.
Being with the 5 physical senses is really different than spending time in the more kind of psychic, magical spaces. Not to say there's not magic here on Earth, because there is, but it's a really different way of orienting towards pleasure.
That's right. And that's what Taurus is about, pleasure.
It's about the earthly pleasures.
Exactly. Understanding that, yes, we're all spiritual beings, but we are in the physical reality. We are having a human experience.
Right.
And so in order to enjoy that human experience to the fullest, you have to appreciate what the material world has to offer.
Right. So there can almost be an indulgent quality to this Taurus energy.
There can be, yeah.
And that's by design, because we are here, in addition to the myriad of things that we're all learning day to day, we are here to experience pleasure and to appreciate the beauty of our surroundings.
Yes.
And to enjoy food and to indulge in ways that really feed us, that feed our bodies.
That's right. And your soul
and our souls
through feeding your body.
Right.
Exactly.
Wearing clothes that you love, looking at a home environment or your surroundings that you find beautiful. Really the simple pleasures that are not so simple ultimately.
That's right. That's right. Well, there's tension though. When when Mercury moves into Taurus, because of course it makes that square, just as the Sun and Venus did in the past couple of weeks when they moved into Taurus, is they squared off with Pluto, the god of death, lord of the underworld, the planet of transformation, which is transiting retrograde through Aquarius at 2 degrees. This squaring occurs from May 16th to the 18th. That's Thursday to Saturday, with the exact square happening on Friday, May 17th. So, as we're getting all comfy in our material pleasures, here comes the community and saying, where's my cut? How are you contributing to the rest of the group? You really like that food, huh? Well, where's my plate? Share it with me. So maybe there's some tension between how you're expressing your appreciation for the material, for your material well-being or your material values. There's tension between that and sharing what you value with the community. It's like, well, I don't want to tell the community or the group that I really like this bottle of wine because I want it all to myself. But then it's like, no, you've got to share some of it, because the joy comes through being in that community where, it's like we were talking about music earlier. How fun would it be to go to, let's say we were talking about the Grateful Dead. They're famous for their shows. Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead, these big, massive shows. Part of the experience of seeing them play in a concert is being with all these other people. Would you rather see the Grateful Dead in that environment or by yourself, where you're the only person there?
Well, it depends on who you're asking.
I guess so. And
Are you asking an introvert? No.
And so maybe that's where some of the tension comes in, is some people would say, I would rather see the Grateful Dead all by myself than go to a concert with 80,000 people. So to each their own, but that's kind of the friction that we're feeling as we lean into the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And it's also just connecting you with different ways to experience pleasure, but beyond that, just different life experiences.
Yes.
That you could experience joy in enjoying that glass of wine by yourself. You could also experience joy in sharing it with someone from your community,
Mm-hmm.
and neither is right or wrong.
Mm.
I think there's just a time and a place for different ways of being
Yep.
during different seasons of life.
So this may be one of those times where you're being pushed into a situation where you feel obligated or forced to share what you value with others that maybe you don't want to. But the way that we can transform through this challenging tension is to think that maybe through sharing that experience with these other people, we actually realize that we have a lot in common. We actually like the same food or the same bottle of wine. They're appreciating the same music as me. And there's joy in having that reflection of somebody appreciating something that you appreciate. Somebody else appreciating it too, with you. Thank you for sharing that with me. It's amazing. Really? You think so? I do. Wow. I do too. Wow. We both really like the same thing. That's awesome. Now we have something in common.
So you're saying to expect some resistance.
Maybe.
But to be open to understanding the value of the opportunity to connect with community.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Our next 3 transits are all happening sort of concurrently. They all form an exact alignment on Saturday, May 18th. The first one is the Sun, which forms a conjunction with Jupiter, the god of thunder, lord of justice, the planet of luck and expansion, in Taurus at 28 degrees, the very end of the sign. This aspect is occurring from Wednesday, May 15th to Monday, May 20th, with the exact conjunction happening on Saturday, May 18th. The Sun also, at this same time, forms a sextile, a supportive aspect with Neptune, the god of fresh water and the sea, the planet of illusion, deception, compassion, and intuition, at the final degree of the mutable water sign, Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. This aspect occurs from Friday, May 17th to Monday, May 20th, with the exact sextile happening on Saturday, May 18th. And then Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships, forming that conjunction with Uranus, the primordial sky god, the planet of revolution, rebellion, innovation, independence, and the unexpected, which the Sun formed that conjunction earlier in the week. Venus forms this conjunction from Thursday, May 16th to Monday, May 20th, with the exact sextile happening on Saturday, May 18th. So a lot happening here with several planets that we've already spoken about. The Sun, Venus, Uranus, but 2 that we haven't mentioned, Jupiter and Neptune. So, especially with the aspects with the Sun, this is converging at the final degrees of Taurus. So there's a lot of intensity here around self-worth, values, what is mine, what do I need, what do I want. The Jupiter energy is expanding that.
So it's bringing clarity?
Maybe bringing clarity, maybe bringing in more abundance. Maybe you're able to share with the group because you have more. I'd like to think that this is a very auspicious time in terms of material and financial well-being and bringing your dreams into reality in some way, especially with not only is the Sun making these aspects to Jupiter and Neptune, but Jupiter and Neptune, even though they're not at the exact same degree, it's not an exact sextile yet, they're still within a degree of each other. The planet of expansion and the planet of dreams. Jupiter, along with Neptune, they're both the planetary rulers of Pisces, but Jupiter's transiting through Taurus, which is one of the signs that represents reality. material reality. So it's bringing that fantasy into reality. This could be a very powerful time for manifestations. If you're somebody who is a manifester, who has the ability to really ask for something and you receive it, this is the time to do it right now. Like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you need? Call it in.
By a manifester, are you referring to human design?
Not necessarily. It could be that. But there's all different types of manifestors, right? You're a specific manifester, you're a non-specific manifester if you're talking about human design, whether you're actually a manifester or a manifesting generator or projector or whatever, you still have the ability maybe to manifest. There's people out there that maybe they don't know about human design. Like, who are you? Are you somebody that can ask for something and bring it into reality? I feel like that energy is palpable right now.
So to give anyone who's not familiar with human design just a little bit of information, it's a system that it does have a component of astrology, and it has other components as well, including the I Ching, but it's a system of understanding yourself like through an energy type. So you can be a manifester, a generator, manifesting generator, projector, or reflector. Those are the categories. And within each person's chart, you have, you're either a specific manifester or non-specific, which is giving you information about how you bring your dreams into reality, essentially. So Scott and I are representing, just to give us as an example, representing those two different types of manifestation. And what's interesting, I think, about this is it almost has a quality to me of needing to sort of stretch to reach that way of manifesting, similar to how your North Node is kind of a stretch for like what you're meant to work towards. In the human design chart, it feels like that too. It's typically the one that feels a little harder for you is the one that you're here to learn how to cultivate. So for me, I'm a specific manifester. That means that I can be as specific as I want. I'm really challenged to be as specific as I can be about what I want to manifest, down to, I feel like this home that we're living in is my manifestation.
Totally is.
Because everything in here, it's like, it's my color palette. It's the shade of wood that I love.
Yep.
The furniture fits perfectly that we already had.
Yep.
I mean, this is a great example for me of, I wanted a Spanish style house. Like, it really ticks all the boxes.
Yes.
Versus for you, for a non-specific manifester, the manifestation process is less about envisioning exactly what it looks like and the specifics of it, and more about the feeling that you want to have once you have that thing.
Yes.
So the lesson for you is that the universe is going to deliver something that's even bigger than your dream. And for me, the lesson is that my dream is what makes it real. That my manifestation, my desire is going to be met in reality. So there are two different ways of getting to an end goal with just sort of different perspectives.
That's how I came to be an astrologer. I never manifested that I want to be an astrologer. That was never a thing. What I did was, when I was on the bathroom floor in the fetal position, asking God for help, I said, because still, I'm asking for help, but I'm going to lay down some demands at the same time. Show me something that I can do, that I love, that I'm passionate about. That's number one. Number 2, whatever that is, I want it to be something that helps people. And number 3, I want it to be something that makes me money so that I don't have to have another job, that this is my job, and whatever that job is paying for my life. And a few months later is when the astrology came to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be an astrologer. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
If I had said, I want to be an astrologer, then it maybe wouldn't have happened. Like I had been very specific about other things that I wanted in my life and I never got them.
And so it was the opposite for me. I knew I wanted to be a therapist. I knew I wanted to go to Pacifica.
Exactly.
Graduate Institute.
Pacifica
my
or
school.
bust.
It's the only place I applied.
Exactly.
And I remember thinking to myself, if I don't get in here, I'm just not doing this.
Right. Exactly.
This has to be the path.
So true.
Yeah.
It's so wild. It really happened that way.
It really happened that way. And then even the private practice that I'm a part of was the only place that I interviewed.
Exactly.
I did apply other places and they weren't a fit for one reason or another.
Yep.
But this was definitely, I had clarity about working with this one group that I'm with. And either way, there are powerful lessons there. So maybe as you're listening to this, you're already getting a sense of what your manifestation style or process is.
Mm-hmm.
And it can give you some guidance during this time.
Yes. So whatever your process is, whether you're specific or non-specific, this could be a great time to really put those manifestations forth with these various alignments. And also, with Venus conjunct Uranus, the other thing is too, is like, who do you want to work with? Who do you want to connect with? What do you want for your relationships? What is the status of your independence within those relationships? Do you feel independent or codependent in your relationships? And if you're in that codependent phase, what can you do to create that independence and give you that space that you may desire or need in order to really be able to sit with yourself in terms of what you value separate from what your lover, your friend, or your business partner values. So that you're more complementary as opposed to redundant. Because if we're playing the exact same notes on the instrument, the same instrument,
then there's really not a need for both people to
be
part of it.
Exactly. Like even the Grateful Dead have 2 drummers. For a lot of their period, they had 2 drummers, but they're playing different parts.
Right.
Which seems like redundant. What bands have 2 drummers? But they're playing different parts, so it works. It's complementary. They're not playing the exact same thing.
Right.
So that takes us to our final transit of the week, which involves Mars, the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, and conflict, transiting through the cardinal fire sign, which it rules, Aries, conjunct with the North Node, the soul's purpose, the karmic pathway of the soul. This transit is occurring from Friday, May 17th to Tuesday, May 21st, with an exact conjunction occurring on Sunday, May 19th. So as we're finding our way with values and self-worth and what do I like, what do I want to manifest, what don't I like, Mars transiting through Aries conjunct with the North Node is giving us that courage to be ourselves, to be authentic. This is me. This is what I like. Why do I like that? Because that's what I like. I don't have to make an excuse or tell you why or justify it in some way. I don't really care what you think. This is what I like. And I don't need to give you an explanation. I can if I want to, but I don't have to if I don't want to either.
And maybe you don't have to give yourself an explanation either.
That's the point.
Just let yourself love what you love.
That's the point.
And let it be.
Yes. What is encouraging you? What is exciting you? What is driving you to whatever direction you're headed? What is motivating you right now? This week, I don't know, it just feels like there's a lot of power this week. Power for motivation and encouragement and establishing the foundation of who you are. This week feels like it feels like a leaping off. We're creating this platform for ourselves to leap off into this next phase, because next week is when these planets start to graduate into Gemini. It begins with the Sun, and then Venus and Mercury and Jupiter. They're all going to be transiting into Gemini by the time we get to mid-June, let's say. They're all going to be in Gemini, and like a month from now. And that's about curiosity, questions, learning, listening. In order to be in that place where you can really listen to other people and want to listen to other people, you need to feel established in who you are. And that's what this Taurus energy is right now. It's establishing, the Aries energy is establishing who you are. The Taurus energy is establishing what you value in the form of reality. And then once you have that foundation, you have the platform where you can start asking questions, gathering information, and it feels worthwhile listening to other people because they're clear about what they value and who they are. And they're not trying to copy you or mimic you. And you're actually learning from other people. That's where this energy is headed, hopefully, in the light side.
That sounds lovely. It sounds hopeful to me.
Yeah, I'm feeling optimistic about this week. Yes. Questions?
Let's do questions.
Okay.
Hi guys, pop culture psych question. When movies are released to the public, is there any correlation astrologically?
I would say yes. I mean, the first thing that comes up for me is, like, recently we were talking about how Dune has come out in the last few months. That was a more recent film. And it was the second one. The first one came out maybe a couple years ago, which was a remake of an older version that was many years ago because it's based off of a book, and so there's some history there. But this Dune is really sort of, I feel like, captured people, the audience. They made a sequel, like the one that David Lynch, amazing film director, there was no sequel to that. And there was another version that was never made, that they made like a great documentary about it. But the thing that correlates astrologically with Dune, and I'll say several other films that I'm going to bring up in a second, but Dune is it's a film that deals a lot with dreams and visions that the main character is having. And the films almost feel like a dream. They're very surreal. And I feel like that plays into all of this Pisces energy.
Absolutely.
With Saturn in Pisces, but Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune in Pisces is the big key, because Neptune has been transiting through Pisces since 2012. It dipped in 2011, went back to Aquarius, and then has been in Pisces since 2012. And when you think about what has occurred in films since 2012, go ahead and count the number of superhero films and Star Wars films, those types of films that have come out in the last 12 years. The number far eclipses the number of superhero or Star Wars films that had come out in the previous 30, 40, 50 years. Nowhere near. Why are superhero and Star Wars films so popular? Why have they become so popular? Because it's a fantasy.
Even that whole, I think it's a series, 50 Shades of Grey, that became a movie, is all like a giant sexual fantasy.
Yes.
I haven't actually read the book or seen the movie, but from what I understand, it had a pretty serious kind of a cult following.
Yes.
People who were just kind of crazy over that storyline.
A lot of the films that have been coming out over the last 12 years or television shows are rooted in fantasy. Deep fantasy, not reality. It's superheroes and spaceships and, like things that you're only going to see in a dream.
Right.
It doesn't exist in our reality. There is no Superman, Batman, Wolverine. It's like...
Well, the whole Harry Potter series, too.
Yes. But I think that predates...
Does that
predate? I think the books came out before 2012.
But even the interest in turning them into movies, I don't know exactly when that happened, but it speaks to the fantasy.
Yep, exactly. So I remember like several years ago, when I was first getting into astrology, I looked back at like the day that Game of Thrones came out on HBO, like the first episode. And I looked at where the planets were on that day, and I was like, oh my God, they must have had an astrologer help them with this date, or their intuition was on point, because it was like the full moon in Libra, I think, or something like that. There's all these planets in Aries, and the moon was in Libra. It just looked like this really powerful alignment that was about beauty and courage, and a lot of the themes that sort of were reflected in the television series, which is based on the books, Game of Thrones, was reflected in the astrology of the day that the first episode was released.
Well, it's essentially about love and war.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Which is sort of Libra and Aries.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Nayeli.
There's a part 2 asking if or suggesting that we watched Poor Things, which we haven't seen it yet, but it has been on my radar, I think, beyond just this question. Yeah. So we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, maybe at some point when we watch it, we can...
thank you for the suggestion.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Nayeli.
Our next question comes from Shell X Beach. You are incredible with the eclipse. There is so much said about endings, beginnings, and breakups. My moon is at 15 degrees in Capricorn in the 6th house, square my sun in Aries in the 10th house. Does this speak of career transformation?
Perhaps, Shell X Beach, you tell us. Are you going through a career transformation? Eclipses, thank you for the compliment. It definitely can mean endings, beginnings, breakups, all of those sorts of things. It can mean that, doesn't have to mean that. I just think of the eclipses as a cleansing of the old energy and a resetting. With the moon at 15 degrees in Capricorn, that did make a fairly strong aspect to the solar eclipse, which was at 19 degrees in Aries. So, yes, I would just say, let me know. I try not to assume anything. I just like to make observations, make them as general and relatable as possible, and the person that I'm reading for can reflect it back to me. But if I saw the moon in Capricorn near the eclipse, I would say that, yeah, you're going to go through some type of fear, facing insecurities regarding your goals and ambitions in reflection to your past. Where do these fears come from? Where do these goals and ambitions come from? And then the sun is in the 10th house, the moon's in the 6th house, so that's service, work. The sun's in the 10th house. What degree is that at? Where does your 10th house begin? That would tell me, is the solar eclipse happening in the 10th house? Is it happening in the 9th house? Different houses, different experience. So it's hard for me to really give a specific answer when I don't have specific information. So, yes.
It sounds like this could be more oriented towards career, like you're saying, but it could also be about sort of the inner work, like the emotional work of sort of the day-to-day life.
Sure.
Is maybe one other interpretation. And the 10th house also represents public life. So just being outside of the home in ways that may or may not be connected to career. So that's just maybe one other consideration.
For sure.
Around how this could be showing up.
Yep. Absolutely.
Our last question comes from the sarcastic sea goat, which is a great name.
Yes.
Felt conflict over different personal philosophy, religion of my family growing up. As someone with a 9th house north node in Pisces and a 9th house Jupiter conjunct my midheaven in Aries, any advice on a way forward now that my parents have passed?
Ooh. Yes, well, thank you, sarcastic sea goat, for the question. And if I want to just give sarcastic sea goat a shout out too, because she has an amazing Instagram page. Her memes are epic with the astrology. So follow sarcastic sea goat. But yeah, the philosophy, religion of family growing up. Yes, 9th house north node in Pisces, 9th house Jupiter conjunct the midheaven in Aries. It's way to advance forward now that my parents have passed. You're meant to forge your own path. You're meant to forge your own path. You're a 9th house north node. You have the knowledge. It's been bestowed to you by your higher self, the higher power, God, the universe. And you are meant to just step out into your unconscious with the Pisces energy and go on that unconscious journey wherever it leads you. Wherever it leads you. And then the 9th house Jupiter conjunct the midheaven in Aries. I mean, that tells me that you're meant to be a prophet of courage and confidence. And I mean, Jupiter is that prophet energy. The midheaven is the authority. Aries is courage, confidence, authenticity. So to me, it feels like the way that you move forward now that your parents have passed, and to honor them, is to just take your own path. What is the path that you want to be on? That's how you honor your ancestors. You is by forging your own path. A new way forward.
And by understanding that I have this image of like standing on their shoulders. Like what you're doing is building upon the work that they have already done. So not seeing it so much as maybe a contradiction to any of the work that they have done, but that it's a process of building. And even if you are moving in a different direction, that you're still able to do that because of what they provided. Feels really important here. And I want to say my condolences on your parents' passing, first and foremost. And then also to say, I think part of maybe the gift of the timing of this and getting to step into this new direction is that one of the challenges, I think, of if we have strong parental figures is that we can have a hard time seeing ourselves as an authority if our parents have a really strong presence in our life. So one of the gifts of the season of life when our parents have passed can be that we really have the capacity to step into ourselves as an authority, which is that Aries energy, what you described, Jupiter and Aries together, because we don't have that anymore on the physical plane. And so it can help us access that in just a new way through the loss, through the grief.
Yep.
In this really powerful, it's a portal. It's a portal of sorts.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you're certainly recognizing in the wording of this question that there is a sort of a new chapter, a new journey to embark on because of this. It's a rite of passage.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. And
yes,
we wish you well on your journey.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gabriella.
Thank you, Scott.
And thank you to our listeners.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Weekly Transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any others may be affecting you, or if you are interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. If you're interested in delving into the world of psychotherapy with Gabriella, you can connect with her at innervisionpsychotherapy.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.